Hello there again. My name is Carol Astbury, and today I'd like to talk to you about rituals, symbols, cultural inclusions and traditions that you might include in your ceremony. Have you been to a wedding ceremony lately and found that perhaps, although it was very nice and you enjoyed spending that time with people you cared about, that you came away feeling just a little bit dissatisfied, thinking, well, that was sweet, but I've seen that all before. I'm sure that's not something that you would want your guests leaving your ceremony and feeling that they were a little bored with the ceremony because it lacked that little extra that might make it so very special and memorable. I'm sure that's what you want to achieve in your wedding ceremony, a ceremony that has your own personal touch to it, so that it becomes something which is very personally rewarding and deeply emotionally important to you, something that your guests will walk away from thinking that they've experienced something quite unique and marvellous. After all, they are all there because they love and care about you and want the very best for you. So enhancing your ceremony with the idea of including a ritual or symbol into the ceremony is a very good idea. Now, what are these things? Well, for instance, symbols are things that you can use in your ceremony which do not perhaps necessarily require any specific wording. Let's think about a wedding on the beach, for instance. What would be symbols you could use there? Well, shells come to mind straight away. Perhaps making a circle or a large love heart in the sand with shells. Perhaps your bridesmaids could pop down and do this for you a little earlier, or you could ask a couple of close friends to do it before the ceremony starts. People love being involved in ceremony in any way, and I'm sure they'd be delighted if you asked them. The beautiful circle or heart that they prepare on the sand might be something you could both step into when you say your vows to each other. That's a good use of symbol. There are lots of standard symbols, of course, that are used without us even thinking about them. Things like the wedding veil, wedding rings, the cake, choice of rings, all those kinds of things are symbols in their own right. But we can take those a step further. Here's an example, warming of the rings, which is a beautiful ritual that you can use in your ceremony. The wedding rings are placed in perhaps a little organza bag so that they'll be safe, and if they're dropped in the grass, they're not going to disappear. The little organza bag means people can still see and feel the rings. So what you would do in the ceremony is the rings will be passed through the bridal party and to the guests. Often we just restrict this to perhaps immediate family and closest of friends. If you've got 250 people at the wedding, it really wouldn't work if all of them were doing it. So perhaps just the immediate family would hold the rings in their little organza bag in the palm of their hands, and the celebrant or the officiant would instruct them to send a blessing of love to the rings as they're warming them in their hands. So they're passed from person to person, eventually retrieved by the best man, and then more words are spoken as the couple exchange their rings imbued with the love and blessings of their family. It's a wonderful way of bringing people into the ceremony. Now, there are lots of other things we can think about. There are things like unity ceremonies, where perhaps a good example of a very popular unity ceremony is where 3 candles are used in the ceremony. The 2 smaller candles represent each of the bridegroom's family and the bride's family, and they are lit at the beginning of the ceremony by a representative of the bridegroom's family and the bride's family, who bring to the ceremony the love and sense of achievement that they have, I suppose, in having brought you to this moment in their lives through sharing their love and devotion to you. The ceremony continues, and then when it comes to the exchange of vows as a symbol of the promise that you've made to each other to stay together forever in unity, the bridegroom would light his family candle from a single taper, and the bride will light her from her family candle, will light another single taper, and then together with the two burning tapers, a nice central candle, usually decorated beautifully, is lit together by the couple, and this symbolises their unity in marriage. Now there are all sorts of other things you can use. You can use lots of natural things like water. You can use pebbles, where the pebbles might be warmed and imbued with blessings, and then they can either be collected up afterwards or perhaps tossed in the water. Water has great powers of holding dreams, for eternity. That's how we like to refer to it. Now, of course, you could go the whole hog and have a really rich ceremony full of tradition and full of ritual and symbol, and use a hand fasting ceremony. This takes quite a bit of explaining, but I will be putting more details of all of these kinds of rituals and ceremonies onto the website shortly. That's weddingplansguide.com. All our members will be able to access these ceremonies. So there's lots of things for you to think about there. Don't forget to ask the family whether there might be some particular traditions that they've used. There might be some cultural items that you can include in your ceremony that have been used in the family in the past. I've had people use wonderful things that have become heirlooms, such as grandfather's ring as a wedding ring, or mum's veil, or whatever. They're all lovely things to include, and they make your ceremony unique and very precious. So please have a think about this before you decide on the wording of your ceremony. Sometimes it doesn't need to add an awful lot of length to the ceremony. For instance, just incorporating some special flowers or some special things that we've talked about, like shells or stones. They really don't take much more than a few sentences to explain, and they do make the ceremony so much more meaningful. Well, I'll leave you with those thoughts, and if you become a member of Wedding Plans Guide, you will be able to access lots of these in the resources section. So I'll sign off for now. That's Carol Astbury saying goodbye for now, and happy celebrating.